Hey guys, this is VManTX here. This is a much requested video for a macro and micro guide for beating New World invasions. We're going to be going over on this video the macro guide of how to beat these New World invasions. Our server currently, Roylo, is one of the only three servers that I know in New World that has beaten a New World invasion without an exploit or without a bug. So you'll see a lot of these videos on YouTube that have wins by exploiting or with bugs, or not real wins with an actual strategy guide. Currently that I know, our server Roylo was the second, if not the first server in the game to beat a New World invasion. There's another server that I heard rumors about that was using a lot of thrust damage to beat these invasions. Similar kind of what our strategy apparently may have. I don't know anything really about what they're doing over there, but we're going to go over what we use to beat it and how we do that. And I'll be going over the macro strategy for this video. The micro strategy will be the video after this. The micro strategy video will be having the details of the individuals, what they need to do, and how they need to operate. So this macro strategy will go over kind of a shot caller's job and how you should set up your invasion and how things should be done together as a group. As a player in this, I would highly recommend this video as well, so you know what's going on at all 5 gates and not just your gate. So to start off, what we have is a video here of one of our invasions that we won. I don't remember which one this is. We right now, we at this, as of today, we have 4 wins on our server for invasions with no exploits or bugs. But we're going to go over our build out of the actual guide that we have here. Let me pull this on over. So what our current build involves a lot of damage for our strategy guide. And what we're looking at here is we have a lot of great axe. We have 1 great axe user per gate, essentially. We have 1 great axe user per gate, and I'll actually go down why and how. I know you'll just see numbers and whatnot here, and we'll go over that. So currently the way we have it is our default build is Group 1 defends A gate, which is the front left gate. Group 2 defends B gate, which is the front middle gate. Group 3 will defend C gate, which is the front right gate. And groups 4 and 5 defend the 2 back gates. That is correct. So groups 1 through 5 has set gates. Groups 6, 7, and 8 are kind of your floater groups, or some people like to call them flex groups. Their job is to damage, essentially, and we'll go over that. So group 6 is a front 3 gate floater group, meaning they should never be called off the 3 front gates. Their job is to stay amongst the 3 front gates. Group 7 is a all-around 5 gate floater group. However, they will almost never be called off the 3 front gates unless it's towards a buy phase, or if it's a towards the end where you have to sacrifice your maybe a front gate or 2 back gates or something. You need to give some alleviation towards the back gates, because the back gates will get a lot of heat non-stop, especially at the end. They can have like 7 bosses at sometimes for the back 2 gates towards the end, and obviously 10 people is not always enough to handle that. However, your 10 highest DPS or 10 best players, most suited players, need to be on the back gates, your top 10 there for that. So that's what group 7 is they can float all 5 gates, but 98% of their time, 95% of the time, I would say more so, is in the front 3 gates. Group 8 is where the Shotcaller will be. As I have here, that's where the Shotcaller will actually be listed, and your repair group. So group 8 is mainly your repair group, but it does have little floater mechanics to it as well. This actually needs to be changed. We actually just workshopped the strategy. We're always evolving, of course, to where now we're actually running only 3 repair guys, not 4. So actually, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and change that right now. We'll do put the thrust DPS there. So group 8. Group 8 has floater mechanics to it, as well as the shot caller and repair mechanics to it. So the main shot caller, which is usually myself for our invasions, is in group 8. And then I have the 2 main repair guys in group 8. And then our backup repair guy, or Tatishra, our 3rd guy. And then a floater person, which will help with DPS usually, is in group 8 as well, our 5th member. They can usually be whatever. Thrust DPS, of course, obviously the best for invasions, but whatever on that. The two remaining repair guys is your two guys that are going to be repairing only gates and the repair generator station. You should never repair anything else other than the gates and the repair stations for your repair people. They should never repair the siege. They should never repair armories. If an armory goes down, whatever. First of all, by minute 12, you can't buy any. After minute 12, it's rare you get buy phases anyways. We'll go over the buy phases later. So the group 8 people, for the main repair people group, there's one that's going to be assigned to the left repair station, one that's going to be assigned to the right repair station. They get to choose. When the match starts, their main job is to grab the 305 repair parts that come out of the repair station on the start of the round, so you start generating repair parts as soon as possible. That's actually very key. What then they're going to do is go towards their gates closest to them to defend those. And I will go over more details of the repair people in the next video, because there's a lot to it. I may even make its own video because of how much detail there is on being a repair person. It is the most crucial role out of all 50 players in the match. So groups 9 and 10 are your siege groups. You only have 10 people running siege. You only need one person for the back left and one person for the back right siege. So you have only 2 people running the back siege. Some forts, if they're downgraded, only have 2 siege weapons in the back, which is rough, but they just have to make do. Your upgraded sieges have 4 sieges in total over the back, which is great, and they'll be running it. For the siege people, so I will actually have I'll do another video to show you how the siege should be laid out. We'll actually do a run through of how the siege should be laid. I'll be a quick little video, but for instance, just real quick on the back, on the back gates, over on top of the gate should be ballistas. The inner spots, the 2 inner spots, should be repeaters. If you only have 2 placements in the back, they need to be repeaters. That's all they can be. For the 3 front gates, above the gate needs to be an oil vat. The ones most sticking outwards need to be ballistas. The ones pointing inwards towards the gates need to be repeaters. Then you can have horns on the very outside, and then there's those 2 awkward placements in the middle. You can do a repeater or a horn there. Typically, we run 3 horns for these higher level, higher strategy invasions. So why do we have this laid out here? So we have a great axe user for group 1, which is A gate, great axe user for group 2, which is B gate, great axe user for group 3, which is B gate. I'm sorry, excuse me, C gate. So this build of people is very important. The great axe user's job, and if you notice here, apologies, if you notice here, it has arcane gem next to it. Your great axe users, their weapons need to have an arcane gem slot onto it. Their secondary weapon is usually best as a hammer or spear, so they have rend damage. Rend is very crucial to give off extra damage, but you need the great axe user to be able to pull in people for AoEs on mobs. And this will all flow together. The way we have this will all flow together as one. The majority of what you want to have in your groups is thrust DPS. So if you can't get exactly what we have here, usually on all 4 of the wins that we have right now, I've been able to get at least 90% of what you see here, 80 to 90%. So it is crucial to try to stay towards this strategy of having the 3 front gates, each having arcane, a great axe user, a healer, a mage, a thrust DPS user, which is anything thrust damage, and then a musket user. The musket is very important, and they'll have their job. That will all be done within the second part as well. So each gate needs to have a shot caller. The Shotcaller needs to have, you already know this, you should know this, the Shotcaller should have clear comms, right? You need to make sure you hear them properly. But what does a Shotcaller need to call out? They need to be calling out all boss spawns and all siege spawns. If they can be perfect, it's calling out the exact type of siege that spawns, which is the cannon or the ballista. The ballista is obviously the most lethal enemy siege to spawn because it spawns enemy units within your fort. It spawns the little bubbles inside the fort that can be popped with one hit of anything, and then it won't spawn an enemy unit. But if it does, then a bomber or a grunt can get spawned inside your fort, which is bad. The main job for the repair people is to, their secondary job, is to kill all enemy units that spawn in the fort, and they can't do so if they don't know bisons are inbound. So people do need to be calling bison inbound. If you want to do that with your shot caller, that's fine. What we have currently is our shot callers can call it, but the only people that talk within our invasions are shot callers, except if a bison is inbound, anyone can call it. That is crucial because how important a bison inbound is, any single individual can call out a bison inbound. You just need to get used to the extra talking within your channels. Invasions are not like wars. There will always be more talking in an invasion from a lot of people, not just a couple or a few shot callers. So the shot caller should be calling out bosses in Siege. Towards the last 6 minutes, 6 or 7 minutes, when it gets really heated, it depends on how your group is doing. You need to be flexible as the main shot caller. You need to only be calling out, if you're a shot caller on the 3 front gates, your job is to only call out a brute, a spriggan, or a siege. Those 3 things: a brute, spriggan, or siege. Spriggan obviously is priority. The point of calling out these 3 is to make sure that the groups can get rotated to take those out. The proper groups can get there to take those out. And your repair people need to know about those ballistas for those inbound possible bisons. Your main shot caller's job. So you have 3 shot callers for groups A, B, and C. They're calling out the mob spawns, the boss spawns, in the siege for those waves, minutes 6 and 7. They're only calling out spriggans, brutes, and sieges. They're not calling out bears, priests, or commanders because there's obviously a ton of bosses already on at that point on all the gates, so it doesn't matter. The job as a main shot callers, when one of your shot callers on one of the 3 front gates calls out, hey, I have a brute, or hey, I have a spriggan here, you rotate groups 6, 7, and 8 to those gates to immediately wipe out those bosses. There's a reason why groups 6 and 7 are heavy thrust. They're full DPS. If you notice, there's not a single healer in here because there should be a healer assigned per gate. So there is heavy thrust. There's 8 thrust people in groups 6 and 7 combined, and there should be a leadership taunt tank. If you want to know the builds on all these, come to our Discord. Our Discord has a list of these builds. I'm still missing a spear, a rapier build, a hammer build, and a few others, but those will be coming in as well. We should have the bow, the musket in there, the leadership taunt tank, and we should hopefully have the rest here soon within the next week or 2. But the leadership taunt tanks, there's only 3 if you see in here, and their only job, they have 2 jobs, and they are to taunt the enemy bosses, obviously, after, taunt them to keep them off the gates. 2, to give the leadership perk within the sword and board talent tree to the thrust DPS users in their group. If you notice, the meat of the operation is thrust DPS, and where they're located in the grouping wise is in the leadership taunt tank group, 5, 6, and 7. 5 is for the back gates, right? That's the main damage group for the back gates. 6 and 7 are the 2 floater groups that just hit hard to knock down bosses as soon as possible. You'll see in our other videos, and maybe we'll pull up one here to show you real quick, that we just can burn down spriggans and brutes so fast because of our thrust damage. So that's very crucial. So when they get rotated, they'll burn them down. The very important thing is when you get towards a gate, when you rotate 6 or 7 towards the gate, 6, 7, 8 to the gate, their job is to body block the spriggan if it's a spriggan you're rotating to. If it's a melee unit, they need to be body blocking that spriggan. The muskets and bows can start damaging, or range units can start damaging the spriggan while they're body blocking them. But once a body block is completely held, meaning the spriggan is standing still for at least 2 to 3 seconds. 2 to 3 seconds. A spriggan is standing still for about 2 to 3 seconds. That means a full body block is held. At that point, you wanna drop full rend damage, meaning all melee units that have rend get out their weapon and drop full rend. That is the first thing you do after a body block is fully secured. 2 to 3 seconds of being stopped. Full rend damage goes out. At that point, your muskets and bows should be hitting 12,000 plus, and other units should be hitting a ton as well. So after full rend goes out, there's main shot caller's jobs that immediately call out full DPS. That's when everyone goes in and just damages that spriggan and destroys it. We don't usually call like the full rend on brutes. We're just trying to do full DPS at all times because they can't be body blocked. They get straight to the gate and they start knocking stuff up. Spriggan and brutes, they cannot be taunted until they hit the gate. They're programmed in to run directly to that gate, and once they make that first attack on the gate, that's when they can be taunted away. Now, as a leadership taunt tank, your job is, of course, taunt them off. You can't get the taunt until after they hit the gate, so you have to build up a little bit of damage after they hit the gate, maybe 2 to 3 seconds after they hit the gate, build a little damage, and then drop all of your taunts, because these bosses, the brutes and spriggans, are very difficult to grab aggro on. More so than in the real world, I believe, right? Within the new world, open world, excuse me. So you got to be able to try to get those off there. If a bear or commander spawns, or priest, anyone can really aggro those and run them around. They're not priorities. In fact, the priority list of things to kill is a Spriggan, then a Brute, then a Commander, then a Priest, then a Bear. Bear's last. A bear can just be run around by a solo person and do whatever. So once again, you have a Spriggan, Brute, Commander, Priest, Bear. That is your priority for the groups working on the field to kill. For your siege people, if you're running a Ballista, if you're on a Ballista, your main target when you're shooting and attacking is enemy siege. Your secondary target is enemy bosses. That's it. Those are the only two things you should shoot. As a repeater, you can shoot all things, but your priority list is enemy suicide bombers, enemy muskets, and bosses. You kind of have to make the judgment of which one is the better call at the time. And then all trash is after that. Essentially, you want to try to pick off the lone targets that you know mages and AoE groups cannot take care of. Because a Great X user, they'll be pulling the AoE. The mages will be putting AoE to take down mobs. Now, there is spawn times for certain things. I have here on the list, you can see this Excel spreadsheet you can find in the description of this video. I also have a Word document that will show more strategy as well written down, things that I won't be going over in the video. And then our Discord has this stuff, and you can also ping me in Discord. You can go in the Discord and just message me directly from there. Do check my messages once or twice a day, and we can go over anything that you need. Or you can jump in our invasions when we have them and spectate in our invasions and see how they run. So as the main shot caller, your job is to call it the buy phase. You're the only one that should be calling this out. These times right here in green are the actual times that the buys occur. So minute 27 is when mobs stop spawning, and you have anywhere from minute 27 to minute 26 and 15 seconds to buy. So roughly you have 45 seconds to buy. So you tell all of your people when minute 27 hits to kill everything at their gate, then come by. To be honest, it's like minute 20, it's like 27 minutes and 10 seconds, like 27:10 or 27:15 that the last wave spawns. When you kill that last wave, you tell everyone to come by. Oops, excuse me. You tell everyone to come by back in, right? And then you have the waves coming in minute 23. Once again, that's when you minute 23:10, you kill that last wave, everyone come by. 19:10, you tell everyone to kill their last wave. When everything's dead at their gate, come by. The last buy phase for majority of groups is minute 12, because at this point, it's now going to get crazy and hectic by minute 8:30. If somehow you're able to kill everything at the gates and come by at 8:30, you're doing really good. There is a very good chance that you win. In fact, for ours, nearly I can't remember exactly, but if you're at 8 minutes and 30 seconds and you have nothing at your gates, go by. Take that opportunity. That's rare. You're doing really good as a group. Minute 4 minutes. I've only had one game I've been in, maybe two now, that at minute 4 we had even a chance to buy. But look at the time frame. From 8 minutes, 8 minute 30 to 7:30, you have one full minute. You have 60 seconds to buy technically. But so it's possible to buy. But the last buy phase, which if you even call it that, it's more of like a breath of fresh air, get the inferno traps back up, is minute 4 to 3:45. That's only 15 seconds. It's not really enough time to buy. Maybe groups 6, 7, 8 can come by so they can get their haste potions, because groups 1 through 5 should be buying inferno traps, and 1 to 2 haste potions. That's it. They should only have 1 to 2 haste potions for the entire match, and then everything else to buy is inferno traps. Of course, if you're a bow, buy your arrow, sure, whatever. Groups 6, 7, and 8 should only be buying haste potions, and then by minute 12, you can tell them, you usually have enough haste potions by then, as long as they have about 7 by minute 12, you can tell them, hey, just buy full inferno traps, and then they'll use those later on for the waves. Groups 9 and 10 are obviously, because they're siege, they're buying the ammo siege kits. So those are the buy phases for when you can tell your groups to buy. Now there's a head spawn phase. So there is a time frame that those giant heads, the giant skulls that spawn up out of the ground in front of gates A, B, and C, spawn and they shoot lasers out of their eyes. So the best way to take this out is obviously shooting the eyes out and then take them down. Now do remember, you only want to shoot the eyes out, damage them into the eyes. You'll notice there's a death animation for the eye, and when you shoot the eye, the head will throw back and then come back. That's when you know you took out an eye out. So you want to take out usually what we do is we take out the left eye first, so doesn't even need to be said. Everyone should know, target the left eye first, then immediately target the right eye first as a group. The people targeting the eyes is all the muskets. Groups 1, 2, and 3 has 3 muskets. That's 3 muskets. The Shotcaller, it's best if you're a musket. That's 4 muskets. And then possibly 1 or 2 other muskets that you may have running around there in the 3 front gates. All muskets and all siege closest to that eye that have a clear shot need to be shooting that eye. Those muskets need to run around because they're mobile. They're not like siege. They need to run to where the head is and target that left eye. But once the left eye is down, you take out the right eye. Once both eyes are down, you do not shoot the head anymore at all. You should not shoot that skull at all. You leave it up, leave it as is, and then go back to what you're doing. The head spawn at 9 minutes and 5 seconds is the first head spawn. The second head is 7 minutes. The third head is 550, 325, 235, and then 120. At minute 120, when that head comes up, you actually should not kill it or attack it at all. Once that head comes up at 120, whatever gate that is at, I can't remember for sure if they spawn at alignment of gates. I thought it was 2B, then 2 spawn at A, and then 1 at C. But if I remember right, I've had some spawn at B before, so I can't remember. I don't know yet. That will be in the future. But by the time the last head spawns at minute 20, last head, you call the abandonment of that gate. What an abandonment of the gate means is the siege people in that vicinity of that gate need to get off the gate and start operating with one of the floater groups, or just operate within the fort, because usually you're going to lose the gate by this time or whatever. They need to essentially just get off the gate. But what they do need to do is when you call an abandonment of whatever gate at any time, you have to get the siege people that the gate was abandoned to get on the 2 inner siege placements. Hopefully you have your fort upgraded, have those 2 center siege parts, and they need to be repeaters, by the way. Ballista is the second best option, but repeaters inside. So once you call the abandonment, the siege people will immediately get on those 2 repeaters and defend the inside of the fort to whatever. Of course, we want to target the boss, but suicide bombers is there as well. And they'll come inside. The reason you need to call the abandonment of the gate at 120, there's only a minute and 20 seconds left at this point for the head. For the match, there's no point to spend the 30 to 45 seconds to kill that head when you can just use the people that would be killing it to focus on other things. The reason you need to jump off the wall is because the eyes target whatever's closest, and if you're on the wall, you're just going to get killed and not revived, and you're going to get forgot about, so you need to jump off the wall. But if the head, for instance, spawns on C gate and you abandon C gate, B and C people should run away, but A gate, usually people can stay up on their gate and do what they need to do. Likewise, if A gate gets abandoned, C people can stay, but A and B need to abandon off their gates. When you call an abandonment a gate, the group that is defending the gate, so let's say if I call an abandonment for group 1's A gate, the front left gate, group 1 would fall inside and then put inferno traps on the inside of the fort against the gate. There should never be inferno traps inside the fort at all until that happens. Inferno traps should always be applied outside the fort on the outside gates. And another thing is there should only be 1 inferno trap on the outside gates at all times. So meaning there should only be 5 inferno traps at all times throughout the match unless called for. And the 1 inferno trap that's placed on the outside gate will be by the Shotcaller of that grouping. So groups 4 and 5 will also have a Shotcaller, and there's actually only going to be 1 Shotcaller for the back 2 gates. So their job is they can assign someone or they can do it themselves to apply those 2 inferno traps consistently on the gates, the 2 back gates. And then the 3 Shotcallers and the 3 front gates will apply the 1 inferno trap at all times. Whenever it goes down, when they take down whatever they need to take down, they'll reapply that inferno trap to the 3 front gates. And then you're going to be solid. So what everyone should be buying in groups 1 through 5, right, is inferno traps. If you're only using 1 inferno trap for all 5 gates at all times, that's not a lot, right? The point is to save inferno traps. Towards the last 6 or 7 minutes, you should have roughly, or 9 minutes, you should have about 10 to 20 inferno traps per individual on groups 1 through 5. That's amazing. What you need to start doing is the main Shotcaller on wherever you feel like you need to. Typically where I do it is around minute 9 through minute 6. I call for inferno traps for all members of all the gates to start burning through their inferno traps at the front of their gate at all times. Like 5 inferno traps is usually what it is in front of the gate or along the road of the gate at all times. Whenever they get a breath of fresh air. So typically, 8 minutes and 30 seconds, we have that buy phase that sometimes you may be able to buy on, but not always. You can drop that. Same with the 4 minutes. You can drop those inferno traps. You want to save the inferno traps at the end because they need to help burn down the bosses, right? They need to help burn down the bosses. Those oil traps on top of the gates will help with that as well as clearing out mobs that get up on the gates and go with that. So you do need to keep those inferno traps in. So eventually, towards the last minute or 30 seconds, you're going to call abandonment of all gates, meaning every single individual, all 50 players, are going to be inside the fort. And then your 3 repair people are going to be full-time repairing. Once again, I will do the, I'll make a full guide on probably what repair people do and mix out with the siege people, or I may make it 2 different videos because the repair people's job is so crucial. it has to be done right, and it's the reason you win if it's done right. So you need make sure you watch that video after watching the micro video on that. Those will come later, of course. So once again, guys, if you have any questions, please message us on Discord. Don't be afraid to reach out. I'll do more of these. Of course, there's a lot more things to go over. I may even add a third part to this. There's some more things that you should probably go over on the brutes, the commanders, etc. And I'll probably go over that in another video. But until then, I will see you all next time. Don't make sure you like or follow, or I guess it's sub. I'm used to being a Twitch streamer, so I get Twitch streamer. So it's subscribe and like. Trying to get into this YouTube field, so we'll see how it goes. But join the Discord, guys. Let me know. Let me know if you need anything, and I'll see y'all next time. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.